Hey, what's up YouTube? So today I'm going to be rebuilding my Gen 2 Raptor shocks. The time has come where at least one in the rear was going bad. I was feeling pretty choppy and riding kind of rough. So I already built one yesterday, and that one definitely was not expanding all the way when I took it off. So I think that one was a little bit either low in nitrogen or something was going on there. So I wanted to make this video because, like, I don't know why there's a thousand, okay, not a thousand, there's a bunch of Gen 1 Raptor shock rebuild videos. And that's great, and it's kind of helpful, but it's not really equivalent to like the Gen 2 as far as like it's just assembled in a different way and made in a different way. There's like different tricks and stuff to get them opened up and get everything replaced. So I just wanted to make kind of a quick video, kind of document at least the process, or like at least how they come apart. I am not a shock expert by any means. There's people that are a lot more qualified to do this than I am. But those professionals also charge money, and they are fairly expensive, like once you add it all up, including shipping and all that kind of stuff. And so, but if you're handy and you're willing to get a little dirty, as you can see, this is a shirt I wore last night too, and it's pretty messy, but it can save you a lot of money. The kit I'm using is the Schmidty racing rebuild kit. I bought the one with all the tools with it. So it was like $637, and it includes stuff that I'll be able to reuse next time, like all the nitrogen kit and things like that. I did have to buy a nitrogen tank. Actually, I have a video on all this on the Schmidty kit. I just wanted to go over it because, again, there wasn't really much information on that. But for this video, I kind of just wanted to show how it comes apart and any little tricks that I had to use to figure out to get it apart. So I'll start digging into it here. I will try to show as much as I can. I don't know if I don't really want to do a time lapse or anything like that. Not really a big fan of that type of video, but it is sometimes helpful to see every single step. So I may have to do some of that, resort to that here. But all right, so I'll get started. I'll get the camera in a position that works and try to go from there. All right, so the first step is to take these guards off. All right, so we got the guards off. The next step is we got to get it up into the vise. So I put some aluminum. I stole this. Obviously I did not come up with this, but I put some aluminum on the vise jaws, just so it doesn't like mar up the shock as bad. All right, now that we got in the vise, I just wanted to do a quick overview of the kind of like the process. So the first thing I did was I removed this Allen screw, and that's going to release all the nitrogen pressure inside the shock. So that way, when you start taking off all the set screws up here, the bleed screws, you don't get sprayed with shock oil. That did happen to me, so that's not very fun. So once you get that pressure released, you can start working on this side, and you can take out kind of like this cap, which I'll show you how to do that. And then the internal floating piston is located in this reservoir here. So you can work on that side. Then on this side, basically this is just a plastic cover. You'll loosen out this outer blue ring, and then the inner blue ring you'll have to unscrew, and that I'll show you that. But this whole blue assembly here is attached to the internal bypass tube, I guess. So that's all inside that. This outer silver tube you're looking at right now is just simply clamped in place, and there's O-rings. I believe there's an O-ring up here. There's O-rings on top and bottom, and that keeps it all in place. So we'll get that all stripped down, and then we will also take this tube off so we can replace this O-ring that's down at the bottom here, and then we'll get all the seals replaced. All right, so this is just a little Allen screw that has a gasket on the bottom. The last one I did was really tough to get out. Hopefully this one is not as bad. Okay. Not too bad. Please ignore the shaking. That is my welding table just shaking on the not flat floor, which I might have to address. All right, so right now it's starting to bleed off. Bring it down here. Starting to bleed off that nitrogen. All right, well that's bleeding off. I'm just gonna start taking off this little protective black cover here. And I just put a little Allen wrench under there and just pry it up in those little slots you have. And then I'm going to zip tie it up here to the eyelet or whatever this, I don't know what that's called. Whatever piece it bolts in. I'm sure someone will tell me in the comments, but so I'm gonna zip tie it up there just so it's out of the way. All right, so I think that's bled all the way. Maybe not, we'll see. Let's find out. Okay, yep, so no more pressure in there. So yeah, this is just a little Allen screw, countersunk Allen screw with a O-ring on it. So that is out. We're not gonna actually reuse this in our case because we're gonna put a Schrader valve in place of that. And that will allow us to fill up the nitrogen and also have it be more serviceable for the future in case you need to add nitrogen or take some out or whatever. So now I am going to collapse this blue cover in. So basically you'll see, this blue cover is held out by nitrogen pressure and held in by a retaining clip. So let's do that now. So, all right, so that, you know, whatever, you had to probably knock it down to a ½ inch or so. Mine went about 1 inch in. So now I'm gonna use a small pick and just pry that out. Try not to scratch anything. It's gonna be a little tricky. So there you go, that's the retaining ring right there. Just real simple to get out with a pick, not too bad. So then it's kind of a tricky part. I might have kind of not really set myself up for too much success here. I kind of knocked this down a little bit too far. Let's see, oh, I can pull it up with this pick a little bit. See if I can get it all the way out with this pick, that'd be kind of nice. Oh, okay. So I got it most of the way out with that pick. What I'm going to do next is not necessarily recommended. So that Allen screw has a thread of, should be 1024 is what the thread of that Allen screw is. So what I would recommend is you go buy a 1024 bolt and put it in here, and then you can pull on that to get it out. I, for the life of me, could not find one on hand, and this worked last night, so I'm just going to do it again. So this is a thread checker. This is actually what I use just to like figure out what size it was. So I'm going to thread this in real quick, and I'm going to attempt to pull this out. All right, so I've got that in. For some reason, it must be maybe like a burr in there or something. It's not really seating as much as I would like it to. Let me see if I can just pull this out real quick. So let's go here. This is just being held in by an O-ring, and there's friction, and it's getting stuck in that the retaining ring groove. So the O-ring kind of expands into that section and kind of makes it a little bit difficult. Okay. It's gonna shake probably gonna shake the camera a little bit. Sorry. All right. So that not bad. Worked out pretty well. Looks like we got a little bit of crud inside, a little bit of oil inside the reservoir there. All right, so there's that piece. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm gonna call this the reservoir cap. I'm sorry for all of you that actually know what you're doing out there, but no one else really made a video to show all the parts and how it comes apart. So just trying to help out the next guy as best I can. All right, so yeah, that's the reservoir. If we look inside here, so it's just an empty tube that should, well, I guess there's some, I don't know, it says assembly grease or something, but an empty tube that nitrogen lives in. And inside that bottom piece right there is actually a floating piston. I guess they call it the internal floating piston. And we'll have to get that out, and that is a challenge. But, well, actually I take that back. It's a challenge if you try to get it out from here. What I learned is that this tube actually comes off. So that's what I'll be doing. I'll be taking this tube off and then just knocking that piston out. And I guess in retrospect, I guess you don't know if there's fluid in here or not. But in retrospect, I could have just left that cap on and then taken this outer tube off because it unthreads and just pushed that cap all the way through. You know, I guess that's possible. Honestly, it wasn't too bad to do what I did, but that would probably be an option. All right, so now I'm going to focus on the main tube here. There's two small set screws that are in the top of this inner blue cap here. So I'm going to go take those out. Very small Allen wrench. Sorry, I'm not going to tell you that. I could probably figure out the Allen wrench sizes, but they just have an Allen wrench set, and you'll be just fine. I think most of the stuff on the Fox, at least on this shock, is SAE sizes, so English sizes, not metric. So I don't know if there'll be a lot of there might be some pressure in here that, I don't know. I don't know if there's gonna be pressure in here. I wouldn't think so because all the pressure came out on the reservoir side, and that's what's providing pressure for the shock, I believe. Oh, there is some oozing. So I'm gonna put a trash can under there. Again, I don't want to take credit for that. I've watched other shock videos and guys did that. So that'll collect most of the oil. Yeah, I'm not gonna take credit for any of this, everything. I just saw in other videos, and also like it was just trying to figure it out last night, very late at night. So yeah, we got a little bit of fluid leaking out here. Okay, that set screw is loose. Make sure you don't lose those inside the trash can. That would not be good. All right, so I missed a step, and I'm learning the hard way. And this is why I'm making the video, so that way you don't make the same mistakes I do, and you can have a better time. So under these set screws here are these little tiny BBs that I did not know were there. So right now I'm down one. I gotta try to like sweep the floor or something to try to find this last one. They were in my trash can. Luckily, I found 3 of them. So make sure when you disassemble this part and take the set screws out that you collect these little BBs, and then also obviously when you reinstall them, put them back in. So I'm just going to inject this portion of the video right there, and so that way you don't make the same mistake. All right, so now I'm going to use the big spanner from the Schmidty racing kit, and I'll try to put down the size like in a subtitle here, but it is a Williams 483. So whatever size that is, I don't know, I'm going to use that. So basically what you're going to do here is you're going to put it in the two, let's get you in here. So what you're going to do is you're going to put the spanner in the 2 large outer holes here. And what I read online last night, which I did not do this last night, but is that all you have to do is crack this one open, crack this one loose, the outer ring, and then you can unscrew the inner ring. So this was a challenge. I'm probably gonna have to use some MAP gas to heat this up to crack it free, and then I'm probably gonna have to hit the spanner with a hammer. And this will just come out in a counterclockwise motion here. All right, let's see what that does. That's a good amount of heat in there. That MAP gas heats up stuff pretty fast. it is leaking oil or out of those weep holes because it's getting hot. I'm gonna give this a whack. We'll see. The camera's gonna shake. Apologies. Okay, so I'm gonna work on this and I'll let you know when I get it loose. All right, so it is starting to move here. Let's see how bad the camera shakes here. Oh, don't do that. And keep that spanner like really deep in those holes. Try to keep it flat so they don't wallow out and you don't destroy it. But slowly but surely it's starting to rotate here. There we go. So that is now loose. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there because allegedly I can now take that inner ring out. See, I don't remember how hard that one was to get out. So, and I'm gonna need to go get more paper towels. So let's start here. Okay, that. Huh? Made progress. Okay, now it's pretty loose. There we go. So that took me way longer last night, so I'm glad it's at least moving in the right direction. As you can see, this is where it's starting to get messy because there's just shot oil everywhere. All right, we're free. Now, here's your shock and shim stack. Oh, sorry, your shaft and shim stack, I guess. I'm trying to keep all that oil as much as I can inside the tube. So I'm gonna try to measure it to make sure I'm close. Okay, so put it off to the side. All right, so this blue assembly here threads into this inner tube here, okay? And that O-ring right here is what seals this outer tube, right? Make sure it doesn't leak. So, so like I said, it kind of just clamps down between this blue, I don't know, piece of machined aluminum and this blue piece of machined aluminum with O-rings. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna dump out this fluid. I'm gonna try to, I have a large measuring cup. I'll be putting that in just to make sure I have approximately the same amount of fluid. And then this outer tube just kind of pops off. So that's just over a liter, or I guess what is that in American units? A little bit over 4 cups, maybe 4.5 cups. So now we'll continue on disassembling, and now we just kind of just tear things apart. All the fluids out, we tear things apart, and we'll just get moving here. All right, so I'm gonna try to get this main tube off. And I'm gonna do that because there's 2 O-rings down here at the bottom. If I didn't have O-rings to replace it with, or if I wasn't replacing the O-rings, I wouldn't really worry about that. But they're in the kit and they are a replaceable seal, so I'm going to replace them. So I'm gonna heat it up again, and then I believe I got it off last time with like a strap wrench. Something like this. All right, we'll see. All right, it's smoking a little bit. Usually yesterday when I was doing this, if it was smoking, it generally meant it was starting to get hot enough where I could actually make progress. So we'll see about this. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's loose. Okay, there we go. Pops off. I don't even think that's not, this one's just not Loctited on. I think that's just like O-rings being tight. Or maybe like a little bit of corrosion on there or something like that. But so yeah, there's your tube. It's an empty hollow tube. And over here is your internal bypass tube, I believe is what they call it. So on some other videos for the Gen 1s, at least on the front, I guess, people, I think we're taking these out, or I guess they come out because they're just floating in there or something. On the rears, at least so far on the Gen 2s, this is screwed in. There's no O-rings to replace. So I think on this one, I'm just gonna leave it. And I'll clean it out, obviously. I'll use brake clean and whatnot. I'll inspect it. My last one looked really good. This one also looks pretty good. I don't see any like, major scarring or anything like that. Just kind of just dirt and, not dirt, excuse me, just dirty oil and whatnot. So down here, let's see if I can bring you in. Oh, greasy, oily hands. So down here, you can see the two O-rings that are down here that I will be replacing. And I think next we'll get this tube off here. Oh, we'll get this tube off here. All right, so the reservoir tube, in my opinion, was much harder to get out. It took a lot of heat, and there's nowhere to really grab with like a pipe wrench or like any type of wrench. So the strap wrench was the only thing I could really use. So gotta put a lot of heat in it. Gotta get it, in my opinion, get it smoking so that way it starts burning that or superheating that Loctite, and then it'll break free. Also, before I forget, I'm gonna measure the depth of the internal floating piston in here, so that way I can just set it at the same position, and I think that'll help me more closely approximate the amount of fluid I will need, because I'm gonna assemble it fully extended, and then get all the air bubbles out, and yeah. So my last one was 7 1/4 from there to there. Oh, that's interesting. This one's only at 6 1/4. So that's interesting. So do I match? Probably I need to match the first one I did. But as far as I guess as far as ride characteristics, I don't know. I would want them to match. So I'm probably gonna match that first one I did. I'm not sure, to be honest, what the right answer is. So consult an expert, I guess. But so I'm gonna have that match the first one. Maybe it doesn't make that much of a difference. I guess you're compressing that volume of nitrogen, but if it's at a pressure that you're setting it to, I could see it kind of canceling out. So again, I'm gonna work on that now. Get this off. All right, we'll see. This was probably like the hardest part last time, to be honest. And turn up the sticker again. All right, finally got it loose. Definitely, in my opinion, the hardest part of this. I mean, I guess, I don't know. I don't know if every place does this or if it's always required. Like, seems like it's a pretty big pain. But I feel like personally, once you heat up this tube, like once you attempt it, I almost feel like you have to commit because you're heating up those O-rings down there, and I don't know, you might be ruining them by heating it up. So it'll be pretty hot. Let's see if I can. It's pretty hot. believe, well, there you go. A little oil there, boiling oil. So there you have it. You can see the red Loctite in there. Oh no, here. You can see that. Ooh, see a little bit of red Loctite. So there's that. I don't know what this is called down here, this valving, but I don't believe it comes out, and I also didn't want to. I tried spinning this nut and nothing was happening. So it just spun and it stayed on top of the threaded shaft that it was on. But yeah, here, down here you can see the O-ring that we did all that work for, right there. And it also makes it much easier now. Oh, fix the camera. It also makes it much easier now to get out this internal floating piston that you see there. I'll just push it out with a hammer, like, you know, with the handle of a hammer. And yeah, and then essentially we are at the, there's a little bit of disassembly to do with the shaft and the valve and the shims, excuse me, but we're basically done the hard part, in my opinion. All right, so on to the easy and or fun part. Basically, I'm just going to start taking off all these O-rings. We're going to start replacing them. So in the Schmidty kit, it's pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. There's a couple differences. Some of the O-rings are different colors, like some are red and some are black. But for the most part, it is very easy to figure out like which O-rings go where. I would recommend kind of just like doing one at a time. I'm gonna do two here because these are the ones in the main two, or like I guess the threads down here, or like this sealing surface down here, are very thin, and I won't confuse it with this thick one here for the reservoir. But for the most part, I would recommend just doing it like one at a time. I'm gonna just get this wipe spray down with brake clean, and then we can start putting the good seals back in there. All right, so now I'm gonna grab the Schmidty kit. We're gonna go into, just start grabbing the matching O-rings. So for instance, there's two of these, and then I grabbing a little bit of shock fluid. And I don't know if this is necessary, but dipping my fingers in there, trying to get the O-ring a little lubricated. Slide it over all this. I'm gonna put in the top ring first, because I feel like that way I can kind of guide the second ring down. Okay. Same thing with the next one. Okay, there's that. All right, now we got to find the one for the reservoir. All right, so this is the one that matches here. And I don't know if it's by design by Fox, but none of the O-rings, like, once you kind of look at them, you kind of know which ones go to where. So they differentiate the parts enough, so that way it's not confusing to rebuild, which is pretty nice. All right, so we're gonna work on the reservoir tube here. Grab my hammer. I tap the IFP out. There we go. So here's what that looks like. I believe these are called wear bands here. And then a big gasket there. So this is, let's read you the IFP. So there's some grease on this one that was not on my last shock. So I don't know if one of those was rebuilt, or and that's why there's a difference, or just different assembler on different days. All right, this was that. So we're gonna replace this big O-ring here. Try not to stab myself. So this is one of the differences here. This replacement O-ring is red. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's a different material. I don't know if it's an upgrade or a downgrade. I don't know. So we'll slide that on here. Okay. Now the wear band for the reservoir here. Pull this over here. So it's not a formed ring yet. Like the one for the shaft, or I guess the normal piston, is formed with, it looks like some sort of, it looks like copper color. I don't know what kind of material it is, but it looks like copper. The one for the piston is kind of just more of, I don't know what kind of material that is, some sort of synthetic material. But so you kind of have to form it around it, and then once the tube is ready, we will slide it in there like that. But we're gonna put this off to the side for now. We're gonna clean up the tube. All right, so as you can see, I got the shaft in the vise, but I'm going to go ahead and replace the O-rings on this end cap here. And I'm also going to install the Schrader. So again, the two O-rings are pretty self-explanatory. They pop out pretty easily. Oh, I don't really need to save that, but I'll just keep it there for consistency. All right, so clean it up again. All right, so new O-rings are on. So now I'm going to install the Schrader valve that came with the Schmidty kit. When I put the last one in, honestly, it didn't really feel great. Like it felt like it wasn't seating all the way, and like I feel like I wasn't really compressing the gasket that well, but maybe the gasket's just very soft, or the O-ring's just very soft, I'm not sure, but it's simply the Schmidty kit. Just, there's your threaded hole that we took the Allen screw out of. Here's your Schrader valve with the O-ring. It just simply screws on. And then just tighten it up. And got it as tight as I can get it with the small Allen wrench, and with it holding on to oily O-rings, but should be good to go. The last one, I didn't check pressure this morning, but the last one I didn't hear any leaking, so I assume it's gonna be good. All right, so now this end cap with the Schrader valve is good to go, so put this off to the side. All right, and now we will start focusing on the shaft here. So this is a 3/4 inch nut. Excuse me, like you'll need a 3/4 inch wrench to remove this nut. It's a little tight. I don't remember it being too bad to take out last time. There we go. This is a metallic locking nut, so it might be a little tight to get off all the way. And one thing that I would recommend you do is take a picture of this shim stack here, so that way you know exactly like the orientation of everything. Because the order of the shims matters. There's like two, I guess I'm gonna call them washers, one at the top and one at the bottom. On this, I'm gonna rebuild it the same way as it is, so hopefully the person in the factory made it the right way. It's got the small washer on top, it's got a fat washer on bottom. The shims are biggest, closest to the piston here. I believe this is called a piston. So it's biggest, closest to this item, and then they get smaller progressively out. And And I'm gonna assemble it in a way, or I'm gonna lay it out in a way where I know the ones closest to the nut is this set of shims, and the ones closest to this big old aluminum bushing thing are the other set of shims. So I'm gonna lay it out so I know which way they go. So that way I do not get confused, because that's rather easy to do. I'm gonna take a picture actually right now. All right, so that nut comes off. I'm gonna start laying these out. All right, so I've got everything laid out. I'll basically know when I go to reassemble this. I'm gonna start with the, man, I don't even know, I'm sorry, this assembly. Apologies, I don't know what that's called. Put on this bushing, then I'll go this fat washer here, followed by the shims, followed by the piston in this orientation with this in Gen 2s. Both of my shocks, the big cutouts have been on top, as far as like when the threaded end is up with the nut. Put that set of shims back on, and the fat washer, and then the nut. So that's how I kind of am staying organized. And now I can start working on replacing all the different seals and gaskets in this assembly here. Okay, so on this, you've got 3 different, I guess, seals, if you will, not O-rings. You've got like this harder one, a little bit softer one here, and then you've got this guy. So one thing I'll note is on the one that I pull out of here, it'll be 2 pieces, and the Schmidty kit it's a 1-piece replacement for those 2 pieces. So I'll show you the difference there. I was kind of thrown off by that at first, but that is what they're doing. And then there's also 1 O-ring on the outside here. So I will do that O-ring last, just so I don't beat it up while I'm handling the rest of it and working the rest of it out. But essentially I'm just going to use a pick and pry all that out. It's a little bit challenging and a little bit tricky, but it's really not too bad. All right. So you might need a variety of picks for this. Be careful not to injure yourself. But, so yeah, I just kind of get in there. I believe on this one I had to use multiple picks to kind of get started. Put another one in there to get behind it. And obviously you want to make sure you're not, hurting the aluminum too much. Okay, so that one's out. It's the harder one, which is on the outside. All right, try to remember the orientation as well. All right, there's the inner one. All right, and now it's that 2-piece one, which is a little trickier. It's down in there. Okay, so that goes like that. And on that one, the little, I guess, openings, if you will, on the back of this ring, I don't know if you can see that well. So it's got like a groove on it. The groove goes towards the thread side of this piece. So it's oriented like that. All right. So down. All right, now I gotta get out that little, it's almost like a little snap ring thing. Okay, so that's in there as well. But again, we're replacing that with the single piece on this white guy here. So again, I'm gonna orient it like this to get it back in that spot. Let me wipe it out real quick. Okay, and admittedly, like this one's pretty tricky to get in. I don't remember what the best way I did it last time was. Going from the bottom, kind of just gotta make it work. All right, so I got all those in. It's a little bit tricky, but it's definitely doable. Just kind of have to fight with it until they pop in there fully. So now that's in. All right, now I'm going to replace this outer O-ring. Wipe down. All right. O-rings on. All right. Get rid of all these old seals. All right, so that one's good to go. So that's prepped. All right, now let's work on this piston here. Again, make sure you pay attention to the orientation. Again, I believe this is called a wear band. That comes off, and that is a direct replacement. And there is a O-ring behind it. It's being a little difficult for me. There we go. Ooh. Okay. That's off. Wipe this down. Okay. Put that new O-ring on. This one is a red O-ring for the Schmidty kit. Right, so that's on, it's seated. All right, get the matching wear band here. Again, hopefully I'm using the right terminology. If I'm not, I apologize. All right, so this is ready. All right, so I actually think we have all of the O-rings and all of the seals installed. All right, so it feels like we're in the home stretch here. So now I'm going to reassemble the shaft, like in the method described before. But yes, I have these are all the old O-rings and seals over there. I've got nothing left. So now just simply put it back together in the reverse order that I took it off on. All right, so the Schmidty kit comes with that bullet. I call it a bullet, but it's basically just like a guide that helps you get it on without, because there's a hard 90-degree angle on the shaft here. So this is a gradual gradient transition they put there to help you get it's mostly this seal or these seals help get it on there without damaging any of them. The video I watched, and I think the video of the guy at this channel, or maybe the company name is Shocks by Hammer. He recommended putting some grease on there, so that's what I'm doing. And yeah, a lot of credit to him. His video was very helpful to me. All right, so grease it up a little bit. All right, now we slide this guy on. Threads will go up because it is on upside down at the moment. So just ease it on there. So it pops on, good to go. All right, so now we will put the bushing back on. Okay. We'll put, thinking here. Then we're going to take the bullet off. Put the fat washer on. And then the smallest, start with the smallest. Work your way up to the biggest. Just wiping all these down as I go. So that way they're nice and clean. All right, one more here. All right, put this piston back on. Keep in mind the orientation. All right, so now we go with the big one now. Big, just small. And yeah, by the way, move your trash can away from under your vise while you do this, because I dropped some shimmers in last night, and I was very nervous that I had lost one. I obviously went and dug through it and used a magnet to make sure I didn't lose anything. But all right. So this wasn't on too tight, but I'm just gonna get it pretty snug. Then I'm gonna confirm with my original picture that I took, just to make sure that it looks correct. All right, so we're gonna start working on the shock body again. And first thing we'll do is I'm going to put on the reservoir tube. Should be pretty easy to get on up until, well, camera's gonna shake, sorry. Whole table's shaking, everything's shaking. Should be pretty easy to put on. Should seat all the way against the blue down here. I've got a little bit of a gap, and I'm obviously going to use a trusty band strap wrench again, I guess. Okay, and so pretty sure it seats and then kind of just is good to go. I obviously will tighten it up best I can. Okay, I think that's all she's got. And the sticker is the same spot. So if you have your sticker still on, you can kind of use that as a gauge to see where you're at. All right, so next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put the main tube back on. And then we are going to seat that there. Again, I don't know if it really matters, but I paid attention to the orientation of this tube. There's a sticker on this side, you can't see it. And the sticker is closer to this blue, machined part down here. So I did that. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put some shock oil in, and I don't know if this is, I'm not an expert. I don't know if this is the best way to do this or the way to do it, but I'm gonna put some shock oil in first, because what that's gonna let me do is push down that internal floating piston, and I'll be able to like move the whole assembly to try to work some air bubbles out. You could do this after the fact, I guess, but it'd be a lot more difficult. So I thought this was a good idea. So I'm gonna kind of just fill it up. It's gonna start, so we fill it up on this side. It's gonna start filling up over here. As soon as you have it at a level where the internal floating piston would most likely be touching it, you can put the internal floating piston in. We'll put it down in there, and then we can start working out air bubbles. All right, so I think we're good to go as far as level goes. Put the piston in. I almost forgot. We got to put this wear band back on. That would have been bad. Would have been really bad, actually. Okay. So lubricate that up a little bit. All right, wiggle this guy in. Okay. Tap it in with the wooden mallet here, and the hammer handle. There it goes. All right, and as we push this in, we're gonna hear air bubbles because it's forcing air out onto this side. Don't want to go too far. We're gonna hit that similar mark to where we were last time. Okay, perfect right there. All right, so now I'm gonna try to work those air bubbles out. So just keep in mind that this other tube is not attached, so you don't want to manipulate that too much or else you'll start leaking. But you want the air to go from, let's see if I can do this here, this area, that's where the air is right now, and you want to get up into this area so that way it'll flow out the top. So as I do this, I'll probably hear some bubbles. There's some bubbles, lots of bubbles. Okay. Basically, I'm trying to get that air to come out. We don't want air, we want nitrogen, right? So if I can get this to like essentially level, in my mind, that's pretty good. Don't hear any more air bubbles coming out. I'm watching the tube. I don't want anything to flow out here. I don't hear any more air. So I think we are good on that front. Okay, there's that. All right, so that's good to go. So now we can go install our reservoir cap here. I'm going to lube up these a little bit, help it slide in. All right, get my mallet and a big socket. Set that in there. Okay, we want to put it just below that level of that retaining ring groove. Okay, so that way we get that retaining ring in. Remember this guy? Put that guy in. It's very simple to set that in there. Okay, so then when we add our nitrogen to this portion, it'll essentially force that end cap to set in place. All right, so at this point, I think we're ready to put the shaft back in. Obviously, we have to put in more shock oil. And when I did this last night, I basically put a little bit too much in because obviously this assembly takes up a lot of volume as you sink it in there, and you end up losing a lot of shock oil. However, in my opinion, I would say it's probably better to have a little extra in there than not enough, because the extra will come out as you're screwing it in. It'll overflow or come out the bleed screw holes. And to me, you want that rather than having an air gap in there where you obviously would have air trapped, and air is not what you want inside your shock. So I'm gonna go get some more fluid. We'll kind of try to eyeball a little bit. I did measure the volume of the last stuff, and as I was starting to put it into this reservoir, I did forget. So maybe you could do that better than I did. Maybe on my next one, I'll try to not forget that. But if I have to use a little bit extra oil, no big deal. All right, so right now I have it filled up to about an inch lower than the threads. I'm thinking it's gonna work out, because here's the threads, an inch lower, and then you have all this volume here. So I think that's going to displace a lot of it. If while we're tightening it down, we don't see overflowing oil, I'll probably back it back out and top it off. We'll see where we're at. Let me lube this up a little bit, just so we're not damaging anything. I don't see as much oil as I'd like to see. Just a little bit. Okay, I see oil coming up to the bottom of the threads. So I think as we do this, we'll start to make a mess, which is how you kind of know it's full, I guess. Probably a more proper way to do this, to be honest, but see, okay, we've got oil coming out of the lead screws there. It's gonna be a little messy, but that'll be all right. Again, I kind of rather know that it's full of oil All right, we'll transition to the spanner now. Okay, it's seated. I'm gonna wipe this off real quick. All right, so I got that fully seated. I did give it a tap with the hammer, one light tap, just to make sure it was, you know, all the way in. I'm gonna do this guy now. Okay, pretty tight. Do the same thing, just one little tap with the hammer. Make sure it's good. I might do 2 taps. Okay. All right, so before we put these bleed screws in, like we do have, I am confirming that we do have oil that's coming out of both bleed screws and it is full. So that just tells me again that we have no air in there, or hopefully we have no air in there. And then we are going to set those. All right. It's not the most convenient bleed screw to put in. You can only do, you know, 270 degrees per turn because the shaft is there, but all right. All right, so for those of you that have not used a nitrogen or like a gas tank like this before, I figured I'd just give you a little intro, kind of like, you know, again, just like make it easy for everybody. So essentially you're gonna hook up your regulator, you're gonna get everything tight. You'll need like an adjustable wrench for this probably. And I'll start with this valve closed, right? Because if you don't have this valve closed, it's just gonna flow all the nitrogen out. So I've already got this set, but essentially when you open it, you'll wanna set it to like, so for me, I'm gonna set it to whatever pressure I want. And so you can adjust the pressure with this, I guess, adjustment here, this lever here, and that'll like raise your regulated pressure to whatever you want it to be. And then this valve is currently stopping the flow. So before I go, I'll tap this to make sure that this line gets filled with nitrogen and, you know, it kind of exhausts some of that air out. And I'll do that before I hook up to the shock at all. So, but once I do that, I clear the line, get it filled with nitrogen. I will hook up to the shock. I will depress this. I will screw this in all the way so that way it is engaging with the shock. I'll fill up my pressure to 200 PSI, and then I will unscrew this, so counterclockwise, to basically disengage the Schrader valve, and then it'll be full of nitrogen. We are gonna go 200 PSI on this shock today. I will credit, I guess, Hammer Shocks or Shocks by Hammer for a recommendation. So he recommended for Gen 2s, I guess the spec says 200 on the fronts and 150 in the rear. He said they always run 200 in the rear as well. So that way, I don't know, I guess it has a good ride quality. And he said his customers have a lot of success with it. And by going high initially, I can always bleed. I mean, I can adjust the pressures. I have nitrogen now, so you can always adjust the pressures to whatever I want. You know, I could go higher if I wanted to, I guess. But I guess if you're having a shop do it, I guess I would always start high, so that way you could always bleed it off. Obviously, if we need a gauge of some sort to properly do that. But with this kit and with all this here, I can just kind of do whatever I want. So, all right, let me get that set up and I'll show you how I do it. All right, so flip the valve here. Okay, should be full of nitrogen now. So now I'm gonna screw it back on. So as I do this, you're gonna see again, this end cap is gonna kind of move upwards as it fills with pressure. So here we go. Okay. Go. Okay. Oh, we got something's leaking. I think it's. I didn't have it screwed on tight enough there. I should probably use a wrench for that. Okay, now it's not leaking. Oh, so this gauge is a little bit under. Oh, it's working up to 200. Okay. Turn off there. Turn off the basically turn the lever off on the gas. Now I'm going to do that disengagement of the Schrader like we talked about. So I'm going to move it counterclockwise here. So basically the Schrader valve is now closed. You might hear a little gas come out here from this portion of the line. Yep, there you go. That's it. Okay, put the screw back on. Or sorry, the cap back on there. All right, turn the gas off. And I believe we are, other than putting the guard back on, I believe we are done. So I don't know how long this video will end up being. I mean, last night, I will say it took me like 5 hours to do the first one. It took me a little bit to figure out, you know, it was really stuck on there and stubborn. But the second one, I feel like it went a lot smoother, and I'm doing a video, so it took, you know, took longer because of that. Overall though, I feel like it's pretty doable. We'll see how they ride. Hopefully it fixes my issue. Hopefully I didn't just rebuild them for nothing. But yeah, I'm gonna get this guard on. I'm gonna get them thrown back in the truck, and should be good to go. I'm sure I didn't do everything perfectly. So if you're still watching and you have comments, feel free to drop them below. Let me know what I can do differently, at least next time I do this or when I do the fronts. And yeah, maybe just spread the knowledge so other people can figure out how to do this on their own. All right, thanks, bye.